Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Navjot Singh Show. In this podcast, we have been discussing very important topics with respect to security, geopolitics, strategy. And in today's discussion, we have a special guest. In the first episode of this podcast series with Sir, we discussed about India's strategic stance, terrorism, and the historical background. And today on this panel discussion, we have Sir Shri Jitendra Kumar Ojha, sir. I mean, geopolitical and strategy expert. So, welcome to this episode of the podcast, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Navjot.
So the pleasure is always mine to have an audience with you. So, sir, I mean, we recently, this Shangri-La dialogue, which is one of the most important strategic dialogues across the world, it recently concluded in Singapore. And in that context, the statement of our CDS, General Anil Chauhan, has been doing the rounds, has been quite over the news lately. And particularly when General Chauhan, he rubbished the claims of Pakistan's DGISPR of 6 Indian jets being downed. General Chauhan also mentioned in that vein itself about why it is important that it is not important that about the jets being down, but why they were being downed. General Chauhan in that statement also talked about a few tactical mistakes and how India responded and how all our jets came back to being functional at long range. So, sir, I would like your comments on this. आप इसमें थोड़ा सा रोशनी डालेंगे for the audience कि किस तरह से हम इसमें थोड़ा सा clarity ला सकते हैं for the youth, for the audiences of strategy, for security. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Navjot. One thing we have to remember that India is very different from Pakistan. Hundreds of Pakistan together also are no match to our moral stance.
Right.
So General Chauhan has been a soldier and a military leader. He has to be, careful about everything he speaks. But we are very proud of him. We cannot afford to be untruthful like Pakistanis and fake and malicious propaganda. That's not part of our DNA. That's definitely not part of our military. When hostilities were at its peak, it was extremely important that every information which goes out in public space has to be controlled, calibrated, and modified. But once hostilities had subsided और ये झगड़े थोड़े कम हो गए थे, तो बहुत जरूरी था कि सही बात क्या है वो आनी चाहिए. तो ये तो पाकिस्तान की अपनी काबिलियत थी ही नहीं कि एक भी जेट हमारा डाउन कर सके. वो तो उनके चाइनीज मिसाइल्स थे, चाइनीज रडार सिस्टम था. हालांकि चाइनीज एयर डिफेंस उनका ध्वस्त हो गया. उनके सब कुछ कहने के बाद आपने देखा होगा कैसे हमारी डिफेंस फोर्सेस ने प्रिसिशन स्ट्राइक किया, उसी पॉइंट को हिट किया जिसको करना था. जरूरत पड़ी तो उनके एयर बेसिस को भी डैमेज कर दिया. सो पाकिस्तान मिलिट्री इज टॉकिंग आउट ऑफ इट्स हैट. उसे झूठ बोलना ही बोलना है. रिगार्डिंग सम डैमेजेस दैट वी मे हैव सफर्ड, कि किसी भी वॉर में, किसी भी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट में डैमेज तो होते हैं, लेकिन जो डैमेज हुआ वो पाकिस्तान की वजह से बिल्कुल नहीं हुआ. पाकिस्तान की काबिलियत नहीं है वो डैमेज करने की. वो डैमेज इस वजह से हुआ कि चाइना ने अपने सबसे एडवांस्ड वेपन सिस्टम पाकिस्तान को दे रखे हैं और चाइना उनको टेस्ट करता है. Virtually, at height of COVID, there were a lot of confirmed reports that Chinese were manning ground stations of Pakistani Air Force at different locations, including radar system and everything. So definitely Chinese were training, Chinese were seeking to integrate their weapon system with Pakistan. And there was an apprehension that in case of hostilities, it will not be Pakistani army itself or Pakistani Air Force, but Chinese PLA, People's Liberation Army Air Force might be operating this thing. So from that perspective, one can say that yes, Chinese had managed to inflict some damages because China has carried out very serious and extensive technological upgradations and a very comprehensive ecosystem of military modernization that they've been carrying out for the last 3 to 4 decades. So naturally, some of our imported weapon system were not that efficient, but you must appreciate that our weapon system also had a significant component of indigenous weaponry. तो उसके वजह से आप देखें कि क्या हुआ कि उसके बावजूद छोटे मोटे जो सेटबैक रहे, कुछ दिक्कत हुई होती है, तो वो उसके बावजूद we were able to do what we wanted to do. But यही है कि मैंने last time भी कहा कि irregular warfare के तरीके से किया जाना चाहिए, and we need to have a very comprehensive and total strategy. और उसमें naturally we are evolving. I'm sure that it's not only obligation of government of the day, even former practitioners and genuine experts all outside, they also can enrich the commonwealth of wisdom and knowledge in this sphere, so that the policymakers in the government and all other stakeholders, they can collectively address the situation. लेकिन मैं यही कहूंगा कि जो कुछ भी हुआ वो पाकिस्तान की काबिलियत से बाहर है। वो चाइना ने जरूर अटैक किया, छोटे मोटे सेटबैक लगे होंगे, और उसके बावजूद as an honorable military leader, whatever CDS has spoken, I think we all must stand by that. और मीडिया में जो लोग बेकार की बातें करते हैं, they should be dismissed, क्योंकि उनको न तो अक्ल है, armchair theoretician कुछ भी कह सकते हैं. But by very fact that our CDS admitted of some setbacks or certain this thing is good for morale of our soldiers, क्योंकि उनको पता है कि हाँ setback हुए थे. लेकिन सबसे बड़ी बात है कि उनके highest level के military leader ने इसका संज्ञान लिया, he took cognizance of it, and after that remedial measures were important. तो बड़ी ताकत और अच्छी ताकत की खासियत ये नहीं है कि हम मुसीबत को अवॉइड कर सके. Sometimes these problems are beyond your control, but how do you respond to that? And that is the most heartening thing, Navjot, that what CDS said, remedial measures were taken. But I feel, and I'm sure you also agree with me, that the kind of security threat we are facing, we need to initiate far more remedial measures. I conclude.
Sir, you made a very valid observation there about the comments of General Chauhan. But I would like to थोड़ा सा मैं इसमें सर गहराई में समझना चाहूंगा about the extent of damages. I mean, General Chauhan mentioned about downing of jets. I mean, whether the jets being downed or not downed, he talked about it's not important the damage, but what is important is the extent why that happened. So I want to understand, मैं आपसे समझना चाहूंगा कि actually what was the extent of what is can we what is your opinion about the extent of damage? What actually happened? Did our jets actually go down, or were they kind of taken back from our side only? I want to understand a little bit more on this.
Navjot, my information on this is very limited. And whenever I have been speaking with you on these issues, I say what others are speaking, whatever is available in public space, I'm not going to comment. People can refer to that. So what exactly happened, nobody would know outside, people who are actually involved. But I would like to say something which I have been trying to sensitize people everywhere. Very important. देखिए कि चाइना फैक्टर की जो हम बात करते हैं, China has all said and done, a very efficient political system right now, very efficient bureaucratic structure, and very clear goals. Therefore, modernization goals they are talking about. Out of this, technology and military are definitely there. Economics is also there. तो चाइना की नेशनल सिक्योरिटी स्ट्रेटजी समझने की कोशिश कीजिए और उस वजह से पूछिए. आई एम गेटिंग इनटू ब्रॉडर मैक्रो लेवल पिक्चर. मैं हमेशा कहता हूं कि टैक्टिक्स इज नॉट एन एरिया वेयर आई वुड लाइक टू स्पीक. टैक्टिक्स इज एक्सक्लूसिव प्रेरोगेटिव ऑफ एग्जिस्टिंग प्रैक्टिशनर्स इन द गवर्नमेंट. हमारे जैसे लोग स्ट्रेटजी पे बात कर सकते हैं, बिग पिक्चर पे बात कर सकते हैं, और इस किसी भी टैक्टिकल इंफॉर्मेशन अगर मुझे होगी भी तो मैं शेयर नहीं करना चाहता है. नॉट दैट इट्स दैट इम्पोर्टेंट और सेंसिटिव. इट्स जस्ट अ मैटर ऑफ प्रिंसिपल आई कैन से. तो चाइना की स्ट्रेटजी क्या है? चाइना की स्ट्रेटजी ये है कि आज उसने धीरे धीरे करके इट हैज इमर्ज्ड ग्लोबल फैक्ट्री ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. बहुत ही लो कॉस्ट सस्टेन करके पे वो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का बड़ा बेस बनाया. नाउ दे हैव वर्चुअली कॉलोनाइज्ड मोस्ट ऑफ अफ्रीका, मोस्ट ऑफ साउथ अमेरिका. इंग्लैंड में बहुत सारे, या यूरोप में बहुत सारे, इंग्लैंड में बहुत सारे यूरोप में बेसिस बना लिए हैं. बहुत सारे की मिनरल रिसोर्सेज पे दे हैव मैनेज्ड टू सिक्योर अ मोनोपोलिस्टिक एक्सेस. कि बहुत सारे आरईई की बात की जा रही है, रेयर एलिमेंट अर्थ, रेयर अर्थ एलिमेंट्स. हाँ, तो रेयर नहीं होते, लेकिन उनको प्रोसेसिंग का जो तरीका होता है इट्स वेरी डर्टी और बहुत एक्सटेंसिव और लेबोरियस होता है. क्योंकि पाए तो जाते हैं ये मिनरल्स, लेकिन उनको प्रोसेस करके बनाने में बहुत दिक्कत होती है और किसी के पास वो कैपेसिटी नहीं है जितनी चाइना के पास है. 90% ऑफ दिस आरई दे आर कंट्रोलिंग. So what China has done, धीरे धीरे करके 20, 25, 30 साल में, when American capitalist model of economy, they were driven by greed, they relocated many of their manufacturing to China because Chinese labor was very cheap. China में कोई labor environment की regulation किसी समय में नहीं थी. बहुत पॉपुलेशन थी, और आज भी चाइना में एक बहुत बड़ा वर्किंग क्लास जो है वो कार्ल मार्क्स उसे देख ले तो सुसाइड कर ले कि किस सब ह्यूमन कंडीशन में वो रहते हैं। बट एनीवे, एक क्लास को उन्होंने किया करके वो एक मॉडल लाए हैं। उस मॉडल की खासियत क्या है? उस मॉडल की खासियत यह है कि दे आर जनरेटिंग लॉट ऑफ मनी साइमल्टेनियसली, दे आल्सो इन्वेस्टेड इन देयर एजुकेशन सिस्टम एंड हेल्थ केयर सिस्टम। तो एक पॉपुलेशन का तबका आया कि pool of, you can say, skilled or semi-skilled and super skilled manpower that become available to China। और इस तरीके से जो लिंकेजेस उनके रहे वेस्ट की यूनिवर्सिटी से, तो बहुत सारी टेक्नोलॉजी का एक्सेस मिला, जिसको रिवर्स इंजीनियरिंग, पहले हम लोग कहा करते थे 90s में फोर्थ स्टेज है प्रोडक्ट साइकिल, कि आप रिवर्स इंजीनियरिंग करके उसी की टेक्नोलॉजी से थोड़ा बेहतर करके उसको बेच सकते हैं। तो चाइना ने क्या काम किया कि ये सारी चीजें की। चाइना में एक और चीज जो आप नहीं पूछ रहे हैं, लेकिन बड़े पिक्चर के लिए आई एम ट्राइंग टू एक्सप्लेन इट टू यू। चाइना ने एक और काम किया कि उनके फॉर्च्यून 500 में 112-15 चाइना की कंपनियां हैं, 110-12 जो है उसमें से मैक्सिमम पीएसयू है, जो पीएसयू नहीं है वो भी है। तो पीएसयू का मतलब क्या है कि भाई वो कह रहे हैं कि कोई जरूरी नहीं है कि प्राइवेटाइजेशन से एफिशिएंसी आएगी, बिना प्राइवेटाइजेशन के भी लीडरशिप प्रिंसिपल के जरिए एफिशिएंसी लाई जा सकती है। समाज में अगर बहुत इनइक्वालिटी हो जाएगी तो समाज का बैलेंस कमजोर हो जाएगा। उनमें इनइक्वालिटी है कि कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी के लीडर बहुत पावरफुल है, लेकिन बात बाकी आप देखें कि जो एक इंटेलिजेंशिया है, जो एक इंटेलेक्चुअल क्लास है, जो एक स्किल्ड मैन पावर है, उसकी एक डिग्निटी है और वो हार्नेस की जा रही है। तो चाइना ने क्या काम किया कि बहुत सारे जगह से, अपने ही देश यानी दुनिया भर के जगह से ट्रेड के जरिए, टेक्नोलॉजी के जरिए मार्केट कैप्चर किया, रिसोर्सेज कैप्चर किए, टेक्नोलॉजी में इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं। और वो इन्वेस्ट करने के बाद वो कहना चाहते हैं कि हम पश्चिम के गुलाम नहीं बनेंगे, और कहते हैं कि हमारे एयरक्राफ्ट थे 4.5 जनरेशन से, उनके एयरक्राफ्ट 5th जनरेशन थे। खैर इनकी टेक्नोलॉजी में कमी है, परफेक्ट नहीं है, लेकिन बहुत सारे वेपन सिस्टम जो उन्होंने ट्राई किए, चाहे वो PL-15E मिसाइल हो जिसकी रेंज 145 किलोमीटर, सरफेस टू एयर टू एयर मिसाइल थी, बियॉन्ड विजुअल रेंज इस मिसाइल को कहते हैं कि नहीं भी दिखाई पड़ती है तो वो ट्रैक करके कर सकते हैं। बहुत सारी उनकी मिसाइल से जो हाइपरसोनिक वेपन सिस्टम उनकी है, जो मैन्यूवरेबिलिटी शायद अमेरिका के पास नहीं आज की तारीख में। तो जो मैं पीएसयू की बात कर रहा था, तो लिंक इसलिए कर रहे हैं कि पीएसयू जो है फंडामेंटल रिसर्च में बहुत इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं। तो चाइना का जो R&D में इन्वेस्टमेंट है, जो बाहर की डेटा कह रही है, उस डेटा के मुकाबले चाइना का इन्वेस्टमेंट कई गुना ज्यादा हो सकता है। चाइना का जो अफ्रीका से ट्रेड है शायद वो उतना ठीक से रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं करता है। जो मोनोपोलिस्टिक एक्सेस उन्होंने अफ्रीका में, सेंट्रल एशिया में, साउथ अमेरिका में किया है वो जबरदस्त है। और उनकी एक बहुत ही कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इंटीग्रेटेड नेशनल सिक्योरिटी स्ट्रेटजी है। डेवलपिंग कंट्री थे, गरीबी थी, गलतफहमियां थी, लेकिन 78 के बाद दिक्कतें उनमें अभी भी है, लेकिन एक बहुत ही क्लियर स्ट्रेटजी के साथ चल रहे हैं। और इस स्ट्रेटजी का नतीजा हुआ कि पाकिस्तान को भी उन्होंने कभी स्टेबलाइज नहीं होने दिया, हम पाकिस्तान को कंट्रोल नहीं कर पाए। लास्ट टाइम हमने कहा कैसे हमारे सिस्टम में लूप होल्स हैं, हमारी कोई इफेक्टिव उतनी स्मार्ट स्ट्रेटजी नहीं रही जितनी हमारी पोटेंशियल है, जितनी हमारी रिक्वायरमेंट है। तो इन तमाम चीजों का फायदा उठा के उन्होंने क्या काम किया कि पाकिस्तान में जो है चाइना के वेपन सिस्टम का इस्तेमाल किया गया। कुछ वेपन सिस्टम नाकाम हुए चाइना के वेपन सिस्टम, कुछ वेपन सिस्टम उनके कामयाब हुए हमें हिट करने के लिए। कहां पे, वेयर व्हाट सैल्वेज्ड अस वाज सर्टेन इंडिजिनस, हमारे डीआरडीओ के या दूसरे रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूशन के जो मॉडर्नाइजेशन थे, आकाश था या ब्रह्मोस का, आप देखें कि 2.8 बैलिस्टिक मिसाइल होने के बाद मैक्स स्पीड उसकी थी, जबकि इनकी PL-15 की जानती है कितनी स्पीड थी? 5.5 मैक्स स्पीड से 5 to 10 मैक्स स्पीड के आसपास थी। तो उनके कुछ वेपन सिस्टम चाइना के मजबूत थे और वो अचानक मजबूत नहीं हुए। यही मैं कहना चाहता था कि वो बहुत सालों की, बहुत दशकों की एफर्ट की वजह से चाइना ने वो वेपन सिस्टम लाया, लाने के बाद वो टेस्ट किए, जिसकी वजह से हमें सेटबैक लगा। तो मैं समझता हूं कि ये डिस्कशन कॉस्मेटिक नहीं होना चाहिए। हमारी मीडिया जो है दिमागी रूप से दिवालिया हो चुकी है, और ये किताब पढ़ने वाले टू से एकेडमिक और इंटेलेक्चुअल, उनकी भी विजन बहुत छोटी है, वो फैक्ट के अलावा वो समझ नहीं सकते हैं, क्योंकि वो एक एरिया के स्पेशलिस्ट है। क्योंकि मैं यही कहता हूं कि स्ट्रेट क्राफ्ट पढ़ने के लिए प्रैक्टिशनर होना जरूरी है, और 10 सब्जेक्ट आपको पढ़ने पड़ेंगे, एक एरिया से बात बनती नहीं है। तो इस वजह से मीडिया में जो कुछ भी हो रहा है, वेरी सॉरी टू से इंडिया में कि बहुत ही सुपरफिशियल लेवल का डिस्कशन हो रहा है। We have to be proud of what our serious setbacks are part of life, but it depends how you address it. But the real problem is that the way we have not been able to effectively manage our geopolitics of this region, the way we have not been able to devise a very comprehensive and effective strategy of national security, I can say, and a comprehensive and integrated strategy. And we cannot go on like this. कब तक हम अपने डिफेंस फोर्सेस पे रिलाई करते रहेंगे, उनको ऊपर बोझ डालते रहेंगे? उनको एम्पावर करना भी हमारी रिक्वायरमेंट है नवजोत। So I think this is the larger picture, what exactly might have happened, how it might have happened, but yet we came out very well, but we need to do much more.
Right, sir. Right. So very beautifully brought out, sir. Building on to your point when you said that we need strategic, robust institutions also. I mean, there has been, the timing of the statement of CDS Chauhan. Several commentators have also said that the statement was absolutely correct. It was laudable, but it could have come a little earlier. And the DGISPR and the Western media played into the hands of DGISPR. Also, I mean, don't you think there is a need for a DG Stratcom in the strategic command? We think we need a strategic, DG Stratcom for transmission of information, because in this information warfare also we also need to be adept, and it cannot be treated as an ad hoc mechanism. Some concrete action on this front are also needed. What is your take on this, sir?
Two issues. I always felt that everybody from defense forces or from police agencies should not speak. There has to be someone very expert and something vetted, and only that person should speak in media. But in India, there's a tendency everybody speaks. But regarding this information having come out earlier, I do not agree with this. Maybe uh, you can look at either ways. When hostilities were at its peak, when everything was fresh, it was extremely important that we protected morale of our troops, morale of our people, and at that point of time, certain degree of misinformation, certain degree of secrecy, certain degree of deception is always an integral part of strategy. So when it did not
Right.
come out earlier, it was perfectly all right. When it came out later, it is perfectly okay, I think. But what is more important, that we take a cue from what our CDS said, and then we go towards, as I have been saying, a very comprehensive and integrated strategy of national security or governance, whatever you can call it, or geopolitics, or a grand strategy on national security we need to devise. That is what is more important. It's not that politicians can have their way, bureaucracy can drift in its another way, and whenever there's a crisis, we fall back on our armed forces. I think we have to come out of this cycle. We need, as I said, a very integrated approach. And as you said, in information warfare, not only one specific function is required. Lot many issues are required.
Okay. So as building on the DG Stratcom question, sir, don't you think we should, as you mentioned, we need more functionaries? But can we make a start at that point? I mean, that will help us, build more robust communication, because now, I mean, the narrative is also, whenever the war on Iraq, American war on Iraq happened, or the American invasion of Afghanistan happened, the narrative is set by the Western media. I mean, in the current, altercation also. I mean, it was the narrative that was flown in by the DGISPR, particularly taken up by the innocence. I would rather say, I don't say, but whatever it is. It is the innocence or the manipulative tendencies of the Western media. So don't we think we need to counter that as well? Because that is very important. Because India, making economic progress and all of that. If we look at America and the Pakistan equation. America, in any way, if it has to fight a war with Iran sometime later, eventually, if it happens, it's a hypothetical question. It will not want Pakistan to be in a complete disarray. So it will always keep cozying up with the people in Islamabad. How do you view this complex situation?
Navjot, you're raising very valid points, but in world of geopolitics, as I have seen it from inside and outside, it's not so simple. It's far too complex. That is not the only thing. There are multiple issues where sections within United States of America, last time also said they speak in four voice. Their corporate sector has one the same corporate sector. Within corporate sector, there are multiple pressure groups and those who are operating. National security establishment is another separate this thing. Within that, State Department has its own perception. Their intelligence agencies have their own outlook. Their defense forces. So it's always a kind of equilibrium, and some sections within United States, they are very receptive to Pakistan. They feel India is not reliable. Very good, because anybody who has been too close to United States of America, they have been reduced to third-rate power, they say, or irrelevant power. So that is perfectly all right. We are negotiating, but this game we have to play. We don't have to, be there to promote agenda of anyone. So as you said, that Iran factor, yes, that is there, but we have to shape our surroundings, not that we have to be there. So this is where I feel, there's a difference. And regarding communication and media, you are saying, I think if our fundamentals are strong, everything will be all right. You see, there are 100 plus news channels, but none of them, I say, as on date, not a single news channel is professional. They only parrot information. Their intellectual base is too superficial and shallow. We have multiple universities, but most of Indians who have done very well in the West, they are those who have gone there and acquired another degree, because our whole education system also is flawed, information memorizing kind of thing. So what you're saying, information, you are in this area, information is very important. But I feel that our fundamentals of governance are wrong. Our bureaucratic structure has serious flaws. हम अमेरिका के साथ नहीं कंपेयर कर सकते, उनके बहुत सारे इनविजिबल ये हैं. और अमेरिका has already, been very powerful. They can afford this luxury. We cannot afford this luxury. As I said last time, stakeholders of India, they have to realize that racism is a fact of life. We are most vulnerable in terms of security. One end we have Pakistan, another end we have China, and within our systems, there's serious dysfunctionality, there's serious corruption, there's serious criminality in sections of our bureaucracy, judiciary, politics. So within this, whatever we are achieving is commendable, but it's high time, that stakeholders of India, they came together and they tried to address some of these fundamentals. पॉलिटिशियंस को आप ब्लेम नहीं कर सकते हैं भाई, उनको अगर कोई डिमोलिश करने वाला, उनको कोई रेजिस्ट करने वाला नहीं होगा. इट्स ह्यूमन टेंडेंसी. दे विल डिमोलिश एवरीथिंग. दे विल नॉट रियलाइज that what harm they are doing to future generations. They don't realize that they are only custodians of this civilization and state. This has been coming out from eternity, and this is what destroyed us in the past, and this is what will, or maybe damaging us even now. So what you are saying is very important. Information is important, but I feel where we go wrong is fundamentals. Our education system is at flaw. Our healthcare has a serious deficiency. That every 5-star hospitals, when you have a cough, they're keen to carry out your heart surgery, isn't it? Education system, schools, etc. You see in what pathetic condition they are. And as you said, there are many businessmen, but very genuine creators of excellence and creators of high-end product. अगर हम कहते हैं कि भाई आईफोन हिंदुस्तान में आ जाए, आईफोन तो हिंदुस्तान में आ सकता है, but why can't we devise something better than iPhone? Isn't it? Are we not capable of? Probably we have not even thought. So the whole country, our psyche has been reduced into what? Be a clerk, be a trader, be a broker. I think this is where we need a change. Come out of this thing. Whatever Western media says, it is irrelevant, Navjot. If you are a strong nation, Western media will pander to our ego because they are a capitalist country. They will say where things are right, isn't it? When they feel they are under threat, they started criticizing China, and yet under the table or whatever, under the surface, many of them may be having some kind of understanding with China. So you have to optimize, you have to manage your governance, you have to manage your society, you have to manage your geopolitics, and this will not happen. अगर किसी कौवे को मैं कहें कि भैया इस मोर की तरह डांस क्यों नहीं करता, वो नहीं हो सकता है. So this is why I'm saying, there's need for massive transformation and restructuring of our institutions, our systems, our psyche, and this requires genuinely, exceptional leadership. A leadership which is receptive to dissidents, a leadership which is receptive to new idea. ये पुलिस वाले सिस्टम है कि जो हमसे सूट करता है ठीक है, जो हमारे खिलाफ है उसको खत्म कर देंगे, क्रश कर देंगे, सारी इंटेलिजेंशिया is useless. Yes, those who are malicious propaganda, that has to be crushed. But
right.
What I feel, that there's much more is required than what we are saying. Sorry, I drift a lot. Right. You have to restrain me.
Right, sir. सर आपने बात की जैसे कि हमें अपने फंडामेंटल्स को स्ट्रॉन्ग करना है, and this will the western media or the western world will it will come along, but don't you think हमें both these things can go side by side? We should strengthen our fundamentals as well, education, strategy, all of that, but at the same time we cannot be left behind in this warfare of information. We also have to fine tune our skill set there, bring more finesse and all of that. At least as you talked about various news channels, they're operating on a subliminal level or what you say intellectual bankruptcy. तो उस संदर्भ में आप क्या समझते हैं सर कि ये दोनों चीजें साथ में चल सकती हैं?
देखिए, you can't say that A has to happen only then B will follow. This doesn't happen. Everything can go on. But आपके एजुकेशन सिस्टम फॉल्ट है. लोग इंफॉर्मेशन पैरेट करके झगड़ा करते हैं न्यूज चैनल पे. उनके ब्रेन की वो कैपेसिटी नहीं है, तो आप कितना भी उस पर फोकस कीजिएगा होगा नहीं। प्रायोरिटी कहाँ होनी? चाइना ने एक बहुत क्लियर काम किया कि इन्फॉर्मेशन ही बंद कर दे, forget it, for some time there is a iron curtain, nobody would know. But yes, beyond that, it's human tendency that those who are controlling levels of state power, they want it to remain like this, they don't want any decisions. That is also bad. But what I'm trying to say, priorities have to be very clear, and priority has to be on improving fundamentals unless and until you improve healthcare. जैसे मैं कहता हूँ न्यूट्रिशन, सैनिटेशन एंड दिस थिंग, तो क्या होगा कि लोगों की कॉग्निटिव कैपेसिटी कमजोर रहेगी जब तक किसी 50% of Indian children they suffer from stunted growth, and this is a cross device. Our food habit or something is wrong because पहले से चीजें change होती जा रही हैं. So when you have stunted growth, impaired cognitive capacity, what is going to happen? Or the ability of your average human brain within this country, that will go down. वो comprehend नहीं कर सकते हैं, वो एक दिक्कत आएगी. So this is also important, but you can't focus here only. Then comes quality of education, inquisitiveness, वो होनी चाहिए. अब ये दोनों खराब है और सिर्फ आप मीडिया पे फोकस करेंगे, then this will not improve. So you have to focus there, but your priorities, what I'm trying to say, has to be more and more on fundamentals of governance.
Right.
Once it happens, media will be taken care of.
Right. So how important it is to be truthful and honest in diplomacy? Does that lead to integrity? And प्लीज उसके बारे में थोड़ा अपने इंडोक्रेटिक पर्सपेक्टिव से अगर आप थोड़ा सा और प्रकाश डालेंगे उस पे, बिकॉज दिस इज समथिंग दैट इज अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक, सो आई वुड लाइक योर इनसाइट्स ऑन दिस.
थैंक यू. देखिए, जो रूल बने हैं, जो कानून बने हैं, जो मोरालिटी बनी है, वो सोसाइटी को चलाने के लिए बनी है. सोसाइटी में लोग कैसे बिहेव करें एक दूसरे के साथ, उसके लिए बनी है. लेकिन जो गवर्नेंस है, जो स्टेट क्राफ्ट है, उसके उसूल कुछ अलग है. उसका एक फंडामेंटल उसूल ये है कि पीपल हु आर गोइंग इनटू द साइंस ऑफ स्टेट क्राफ्ट, दे आर सपोज्ड टू बी सुपीरियर टू इवन द किंग और इवन द रूलर्स. ये हमारी ट्रेडिशंस रही हैं. क्यों? Because you have to be psychologically, intellectually, morally, ethically conditioned to be what? To be absolutely personally incorruptible. आप हत्या भी करते हैं तो उसमें आपका व्यक्तिगत स्वार्थ नहीं होना चाहिए. तो आपका ब्रेन इस तरीके से कंडीशन होना चाहिए, तभी आप स्टेट क्राफ्ट या इंडोक्रेटिक स्टेट क्राफ्ट की जब आप बात कर रहे हैं, तभी आप सीख सकते हैं. तो पहली बात यह है कि भाई आप पर्सनली इनकरप्टिबल हो. लेकिन जो नॉर्मल नॉर्म्स हैं ट्रुथफुलनेस के, नहीं, कहीं पे अगर कोई ट्रुथ ऐसी आ जाती है जिससे लोगों का मोरल टूट जाता है, तो शायद उस ट्रुथ को बचा के रखना जरूरी हो जाता है. उस ट्रुथ को नहीं आने दे. शायद उस ट्रुथ को थोड़ा ट्विस्ट देना जरूरी होता है, जिस ट्रुथ से आपकी पॉलिटिकल स्टेबिलिटी खतरे में आ जाती है, कुछ चीजें आ जाती है. तो वहां पे ये जो है, देखिए, जब कानून खत्म हो जाता है तो वहां से स्टेटक्राफ्ट की साइंस शुरू होती है. दिस इज व्हाट आई एम नॉट सेइंग इट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ रीडिंग एनीथिंग. दिस इज माय ऑब्जर्वेशन, दिस इज माय अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि सारे रूल कानून, सारी मोरालिटी खत्म हो जाती है तो वहां से स्टेटक्राफ्ट होती है. एंड अ प्रैक्टिशनर ऑफ स्टेटक्राफ्ट हैज टू बी एब्सोल्युटली इनकरप्टिबल, हैज टू बी वेरी वाइज एंड हैज टू नो नॉट ओनली फैक्ट्स एंड इंफॉर्मेशन. मैंने कहा कि क्यों ह्यूमन बिहेवियर जानना जरूरी है, क्यों एवोल्यूशनरी साइकोलॉजी जानना जरूरी है, क्यों यूनिवर्स को जानना जरूरी है, क्यों दूसरे सिविलाइजेशन को जानना जरूरी है, सो दैट यू टेक अ डिसीजन व्हिच इज नॉट ड्रिवन बाय योर प्राइवेट इंटरेस्ट. सो honesty and truthfulness in science of statecraft is very different than honesty and truthfulness in this thing. तो उस वजह से वेस्ट के भी लोग कहते हैं नहीं, certain degree of deception, certain degree of secrecy is very integral. But at the same time, I would say, जब आप डिसेप्शन कर रहे हैं, जब आप इंफॉर्मेशन कंसील कर रहे हैं, वो पकड़ी नहीं जानी चाहिए. तो इस वजह से जो लोग कह रहे हैं कि सीडीएस ने क्यों बोला शांग्री-ला डायलॉग में, मैं यही कहता हूं कि अगर वो नहीं बोलते तो शायद हम झूठे नजर आते. नहीं, कभी भी झूठा नजर नहीं आना है. सही जगह पे सही समय पे कुछ चीजें कंसील कर लेना है, और लोगों को आपके सिस्टम पे भरोसा होना चाहिए कि अगर आप कुछ इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं बता रहे हैं तो आप एक लार्जर नोबल ऑब्जेक्टिव की वजह से नहीं बता रहे हैं. सो दिस इज हाउ और कुछ भी ट्रांसपेरेंसी की जरूरत नहीं हो सकती है. बहुत ट्रांसपेरेंसी आप स्टेटक्राफ्ट में प्रैक्टिस कर ही नहीं सकते हैं, अदरवाइज महम हो जाएगा. तो वो ट्रांसपेरेंसी और ट्रूथफुलनेस का जो मापदंड सोसाइटी में, परिवार में, समाज में है, वो मापदंड कभी भी स्टेटक्राफ्ट में, कभी भी गवर्नेंस में, कभी भी डिप्लोमेसी में, कभी भी मिलिट्री वॉरफेयर में नहीं होगा. गवर्नेंस में हो सकता है, लेकिन मिलिट्री या वॉरफेयर या डिप्लोमेसी में तो बिल्कुल नहीं हो सकता है. यू हैव टू बी केयरफुल, बट एट द सेम टाइम you must always appear credible.
Right, right, sir. Right, sir. Very valid point, sir. So as you mentioned about, Western media and, the narrative being set, I mean, it was joked around in an article I was reading that if Bloomberg had to, cover the victory of Gukesh against Magnus Carlsen, it would point more about his earlier losses of pawns in the initial stages of the competition. So that's the narrative that sometimes, builds out. Anyway, so moving on, sir. Now let's move on to the international delegations that have been sent by us across the board to point out highlight various perspectives from the India's perspective, India's viewpoint in the ongoing conflict. So how do you assess this? Is this a right move, and how do you assess the success of this delegation, sir?
देखिए, जैसे पहले भी मैं कह रहा था कि हमें अपने फंडामेंटल्स पे ज़्यादा ध्यान देना चाहिए. आई एम नॉट सेइंग दिस इज बैड. व्हाट वर द considerations which Met government send these delegations? They would be having better access to information. circumstances की बेहतर appreciation उनके पास होगी, हमारे पास शायद नहीं है, हम कमेंट करने की पोजीशन में नहीं है. But as a layman, I have 2 or 3 issues. We must not be hyphenated with Pakistan. Both West and China have been seeking to club us with Pakistan, and yes, I told you how Pakistan has been treated. तो हमें देखना है कि भाई पाकिस्तान हमारा एक लुम्पन पार्ट था जो चॉप ऑफ हो गया और हम उसको मैनेज नहीं कर पाए हैं, एंड दैट इज द बिगर इशू which has to be focused. Our stakeholders should be agitating. मगर वो 75-80 साल के कुछ ऐसे लोग हैं जो पॉलिटिक्स के बाहर इस सिस्टम को देख रहे हैं, उनकी एक्सपोजर लिमिटेड है, उनका विजन लिमिटेड है, उनकी कंडीशनिंग बड़ी अजीब सी है. तो मैं समझता हूँ कि वहाँ पे एक बहुत बड़ी कमी है. आई एम सॉरी टू से, look, Navjot, I told you our loyalty rests with our country, our civilization. We should be absolutely loyal. एंड जो लोग आके कुछ भी खराब करें, उनके आंख में आंख डाल के सच बोलना भी बहुत जरूरी है. अदरवाइज वो समझते हैं कि ईश्वर से भी वो बड़े हो चुके हैं और उनके कदमों पे ये देश है, उनके कदमों पे ये सभ्यता है. तो उनको हमें थोड़ा बताना पड़ेगा कि देखिए, आप कुछ समय के लिए आए हैं, ये देश और ये सभ्यता तो होता ही है, चली आ रही है. इसके हाई पॉइंट से, लो पॉइंट से आपको जरा समझने की जरूरत है, नहीं तो दूसरे लोग आए. तो दिस इज वेयर आई फील कि हम पाकिस्तान को सॉल्व नहीं कर पाए हैं, आज तक स्टेबलाइज नहीं कर पाए हैं. लास्ट टाइम भी हमने कहा कि आवर फोकस हैज टू बी ऑन dismantling the existing power structure in Pakistan. What has prevented it? No. इसी वजह से मैं कहता हूं कि geopolitics and governance and statecraft is not a game of clerks, which our education system has been churning out, or which our bureaucratic system has also been churning out. कि आप tactically देख रहे हैं, बड़ा विजन तो आपके पास है ही नहीं. जो आपकी एजुकेशन सिस्टम ने क्रिएट करती है, आपकी पॉलिटिक्स ने क्रिएट करती है, और उसमें से जो क्रिएट करते हैं, जो लोग सोच के अपने बूते पे आते हैं, आप उनको आने नहीं देते हैं, इस साइंस को इजाद नहीं करने देते हैं. तो फर्स्ट थिंग आई फील सैड दैट व्हाई डिड वी हैव टू फोकस सो मच ऑन पाकिस्तान. और वर्ल्ड क्या कर लेगा, दुनिया क्या कर लेगा, आपको दुरुस्त करना है. वर्ल्ड इज लिस्ट बॉदर्ड. मैं सोचता हूँ कि हमारे लोग डीआरसी में भी गए, डेमोक्रेटिक रिपब्लिक ऑफ कॉन्गो, जो अपनी स्टेबिलिटी नहीं कर पाया, जिसके पास इतने सारे रिसोर्सेज है कि पूरे अफ्रीका को 50 साल चला सके, लेकिन वो अपने यहाँ कुछ ठीक नहीं कर पाया. तो उसकी गुडविल लेके हम करेंगे क्या? तो इस वजह से सारे लोग गए और जाके कहानियां सुने. उसका एक पॉजिटिव एस्पेक्ट जरूर रहा कि जो हार्डकोर इस्लामिस्ट से लेके, गवर्नमेंट से लेके, ऑपोजिशन से लेके सारे लोग एक साथ आ गए. दैट इज वंडरफुल. तो मैं समझता हूं कि पाकिस्तान और टेररिज्म को समझाने की बजाय दे शुड हैव गॉन एंड दे शुड हैव टोल्ड कि हाउ इंडिया इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम पाकिस्तान एंड व्हाई वेस्ट मस्ट नॉट, वेस्ट एंड चाइना एंड अदर्स, व्हाई दे आर ट्राइंग टू क्लब अस विद पाकिस्तान व्हिच इज बैड फॉर द एंटायर वर्ल्ड. हमें ये समझाने की जरूरत थी. हमें ये समझाने की जरूरत थी कि कैसे दुनिया भर के देशों में जैसे ऑर्गेनाइज्ड क्राइम हो रहा है, कैसे उनकी जुडिशरी को ठीक होने की जरूरत है कि इस्लामिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइज्ड क्राइम नहीं बंद हो, कैसे दुनिया को उससे खतरा है, वो बताने की जरूरत है. वो हम तभी बता सकते हैं जब घर पे भी हम कुछ काम करें. घर पे हम काम करना नहीं चाहते या करने की हमारे पास कोई सोच नहीं है. वेरी फैक्ट दैट सो मेनी इयर्स, 92 से टेररिज्म का ये चल रहा है, आज 35 साल हो गए और हम इसको ठीक नहीं कर पा रहे, हम इसको समझ नहीं पा रहे हैं. I don't think politicians are to be blamed. Some people in securocracy or diplomacy, whosoever, they have not been truthful. They don't understand. Or some people who have very poor understanding, they have hijacked the system and they are controlling it, and they are not open to ideas. They were keen to crush any powerful idea because they feel threatened. तो कहीं ना कहीं उनको भी बताने की जरूरत है कि देखिए, ये देश आपकी प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टी नहीं है. इस देश के 140 करोड़ लोगों का भविष्य जो है आपके कदमों पे नहीं होना चाहिए. उनको भी जानने की जरूरत है. इसलिए यू नीड टू बिल्ड दिस कैपेसिटीज सो दैट not only India becomes strong, the world can be better. तो ये दोनों तरीके हैं देखने के, उसमें एक छोटा अच्छा पहलू जरूर, but I feel what we have been neglecting, वो कहते हैं ना कि कस्तूरी कुंडल बसे मृग ढूंढे बनमाए, तो वही है कि जो सॉल्व करने की जो कैपेसिटी है आपके अंदर है, उसको तो आप अपने इंस्टीट्यूशन को ठीक नहीं कर रहे हैं, आप अपने यहाँ पावरफुल आइडियाज ट्रस्ट कर रहे हैं, आप अपने सिस्टम को बिल्ड नहीं कर रहे हैं, और दुनिया के सामने अगर हम इस तरीके से मजबूर और लाचार होकर कहें एक पिद्दी से देश के बारे में कंप्लेन करें, तो मैं नहीं समझता हूँ कि हम बहुत मजबूत नजर आते हैं। शायद हमें कुछ और बताने की जरूरत थी। मैं नहीं कहता, मैं डेलीगेशन के खिलाफ नहीं हूँ, ये डेलीगेशन जाती और बतलाती कि कैसे भारतवर्ष पूरी दुनिया के लिए एक होप है। तो ये क्या गलती है मैं बहुत अच्छे से जानता हूँ, लोगों के दिमाग में घुस के वो क्या सोच रहे हैं मुझे पता है, लेकिन इस पॉइंट के आगे अब मैं कुछ नहीं कहना चाहूंगा, लेकिन फिर भी मैं सोचता हूँ कि जो मैंने कहा है शायद हिंदुस्तान में बहुत कम लोग कहने की हिम्मत रखते होंगे।
राइट सर, राइट सर। सर आपने एक बहुत ही वैलिड पॉइंट रेज किया कि जैसे पहलगाम कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हुई एंड उससे पहले भी we had been dehyphenated from Pakistan for a long time now, and I mean the attempt at in Pahalgam and what happened in the aftermath, and now as you pointed out, एक किसी तरह से पाकिस्तान हमें हाइफनेट करने की कोशिश कर रहा था, और हम कहीं ना कहीं, as you mentioned, we have gotten into that trap or something of that matter, because it wants to gain that West also likes to hyphenate India with Pakistan for that matter and create such narratives. So very beautifully you brought out how the delegations could have being on the other side, but at the same time I mean that's the best the government thought. Let's not go too much into what's the backstory behind that. Anyway, sir, moving on, I mean there has been another theater that has opened in the Central Asia, or I would rather say in between, near the Black Sea, the Caspian Sea, wo area aapka, Ukraine, Russia, missiles and drones being fired at each other. A little insight into how do you see this, another conflict brewing over in another part of the world?
You see, these conflicts, what really is the cause, who all are real stakeholders, what is their agenda, what they're looking forward to. It is never known. It is only assessed. Many people in the strategic community of United States, they realize that this conflict was avoidable. United States had been very provocative towards Russia. Of course, Russia people have to be nudged towards more transparency, accountability, whatever it is. बट आप देखिए कि 90 के दशक में जब सोवियत संघ टूटता है तो उसके बाद कितनी वोलेटाइल सिचुएशन हुई थी। पुतिन साहब आते हैं और 25 साल से कितने साल हो गए उनको, मेरे ख्याल से very long time he has been at the helm, and he is someone who has kept Russia cohesive and is not allowed it to disintegrate further. तो वो रहा। तो उसके बीच में क्या स्ट्रेटजी होनी चाहिए, वी डोंट नो कौन से लोग हैं। तो बहुत लोगों का मानना है कि देखिए यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ने प्रोवोक किया और ये वॉर करवाया, और वॉर जब हुआ उसके ठीक पहले यूक्रेन में अगर ये होता था, रेफरेंडम होता थी या वोटिंग होती थी, तो पब्लिक ओपिनियन was turning to such an extent that they said it was good, it would have been better had Ukraine not separated from Russia. Whereas in 90s, जब ये हुआ, तो most of the people wanted to get separated from Russia. But right now, a massive wall has been created between Ukraine and Russia. Now they are unlikely to get united because there have been excesses. So अमेरिका की तरफ से हुआ तो रशिया की तरफ से भी स्मार्ट स्ट्रैटेजी नहीं हुई, और अगर रशिया अपनी डोमिनेंस बनाना चाहता था सीआईएस कंट्रीज में तो शायद उनको किसी और तरीके से पेश आना चाहिए था। तो यही कहते हैं अमेरिका में कि yes, this war has drained out and the whole thing will put Russia into Chinese camp. Because अगर आप रशिया पे अमेरिका से वेस्ट से प्रेशर आ रहा है तो नेचुरली रशिया हैज टू लुक टुवर्ड्स समथिंग. चाइना हैज 10 times more population. China has 10 times more economic power, but China has severe constraints of land. Siberia में पूरा China अंदर घुस गया है. Russia has massive base of natural resources and commodities. So China is going to have near monopolistic access. So a lot of people are also coming out with this idea that Chinese have hijacked many of the American system, and Chinese have provoked Americans to attack Russia so that Russia will come into their embrace. So these things cannot be known. Many people in are saying that military-industrial complex of United States, they wanted to test some of their weapons, and these weapons were not possible to be tested anywhere else. They wanted to also see how does China figure, how the Chinese weaponry and Russian weaponry figure in the whole conflict. So they are behind it. So we don't know. These are things, conjectures, speculations, etc. But one thing I would say, it is an avoidable war, no doubt for this thing. It has set very bad precedent, no doubt about it. It is extremely bad for Russia also, Ukraine. It has been devastated. West is also not a beneficiary. Only country that is winning in by this war, even without fighting it, is China. As I said, that China is having access to Russian land, Russian resources, Russian market, near monopolistic kind of thing. And this will have, again, I would say, long term, I look at from geopolitical perspective, whatever is happening internally also in the United States is also something very worrying for rest of the countries who have been benefiting from this existing equilibrium, Europe or Asia or anywhere else, because American democracy itself is in turmoil. They have their serious institutional shortfalls or deficiencies. These have come out in open, that they are not able to act in a cohesive manner, and they have not been able to fix those issues, which have been recurrent for a long time. So the nutshell, I would say that in future it is going to be very, very worrying. There would be multipolar world we are definitely in. There will be more instability and chaos. There will be greater dominance of China, and a lot will depend upon Chinese hegemony in this region if we wish to see a stable area. And if that happens, I think many countries are going to suffer, not because China is bad or anything. China is China, the way it has evolved, where secrecy, deception, a degree of racial arrogance, all these are part of integral to China. And West, this privatization and private capitalism has reached a very different level, where even national interest is subservient to, private interest of big corporate barons, you can say, big corporate leaders. It is subservient to that. And within that, lot of I'm looking at from geopolitical perspective.
So
A lot of gaps are coming out.
So you pointed out about military complexes and military weaponry being tested. How do you assess the Starlink? Would you want to comment on that? The Starlink devices being tested in Ukraine, because it was the American plot to test its technology and all of that. Mr. Musk, Elon Musk, and all. Can you throw some light on that?
Not only Starlink, I would say a host of weaponry, whether various missiles to drones, everything has been tested. Not only this thing, hypersonic weapons have been tested. So whole range of weaponry has been tested, because sometimes these people who are manufacturing, they would like to get a feedback on how their product is, and the feedback can come out only in active war theater. Even this 4 days, even this 4-day conflict or confrontation between India and Pakistan, people say that this was a live theater in which Chinese weaponry has been tested. And many experts, I'm not quoting them, they've said, the performance was of this weapon system was on expected lines, whether they're missiles or whether they're defense systems or whether they're aircraft. So similarly, in this Ukraine and Russia, this thing, very, very wide range of weapons have been tested. Your discussion will prolong, so I'm not getting into detail. Everything is there in media. So those who are keen observers, they can refer to specific cases, but a host of technologies have been tested.
Some of these devices were intercepted and taken over by the Chinese, and for studying them and how it could be, I'm talking about Ukraine. Yeah. Talking about Ukraine.
It always happens. It always happens, whatever is the weapon system which is intercepted or this thing is intercepted. So countries, they are constantly, this invisible war keeps going on. They intercept, they carry out reverse engineering, they see how it is, they test it, carry out further innovation. This war is going on. What is more important, if there is no war, maybe societies will become sedate. Sometimes wars become important. But wars have to be fought smartly. And when I said, statecraft and what is the objective of Indocratic statecraft, I'm talking about. No, we are not against anyone. But we can't say, okay, peace, peace, and everywhere there will be peace. Sorry, it doesn't work out this way. Because if there is distrust, international distrust, there will be conflict. If there are xenophobic psyche and xenophobic practices where some races feel that they are permanently superior to the others, and naturally, and others try to resist, there will be, conflict. a case of India, I feel, India, by being far too tolerant and not so smart, but despite having all these good qualities, we have unknowingly, unwittingly, promoted xenophobia, Islamic xenophobia. We have considered a lot of space, or Chinese xenophobia, Western xenophobia, because despite having all these strengths, we have not resisted smartly and sufficiently. So what you're trying to say, whether these weapons will be tested, it always happens. It will always be tested. But what is more important, I would say, is to build a degree of trust to the extent it is possible. Second time, keep preparing, maintain right balance, but keep preparing for the war. You have to fight war. Wars cannot be unavoided, but fight war smartly in such a manner there are minimum human casualties, minimum collateral damages, and objective of war has to be promotion of peace only, because by talking you cannot promote peace. Certain adversaries are so that they have to be vanquished. From all this perspective, unfortunately, Ukraine-Russia war, I don't think its objective was to promote peace. Its objective was to promote corporate agenda of few. Its objective was to promote geopolitical hegemony of one power or the other. And from that perspective, as an Indocrat, I feel I'm very disappointed.
Right, sir. Valid points. Sir, I mean, in this business of warfare, if we talk about the West and particular Mr. Trump, Mr. Trump, is he more of a businessman, or I mean, what is his leaning? Because in his first term also, he came up and uh, he met the Iranian premier, he met Kim Jong Un, and on the other side, he's being, despite certain friction with China, the business continues. So, and particularly with respect to the current mediation with India, do you think, I mean, the Western powers or Mr. Trump claim of mediation between this recent conflict, or we say, which was imposed on us? What is your take on this this quagmire, entire web that is being weaved around us?
I drift a lot now, Navjot, so I will noted 2 points you've read. Trump as a leader, whether he's a leader or a dealer or a trader, or second
Businessman, yeah.
point, a businessman, whatever. And second is Trump's mediation. Look, Trump is an outcome of, one can say, when America has built a lot of prosperity, he had no accountability. He's a beneficiary of American wealth or gaps in American system. He has built an empire, and he fails to differentiate between private interest and public obligation. He thinks, people say that he has monetized even presidential office. He has been taking gifts from people. He has no qualms. Anyone he's prepared to deal, provided it benefits him personally and to some extent benefits his country. So unfortunately, the so-called America being projected as beacon of hope, a role model for the West, etc., a role model for the entire mankind, I think that has come under threat with Trump. And I wouldn't blame Trump. That Trump is Trump the way he's designed. Problem is with the American system. American democracy has been in decline. Their systems have not been functional. They created so much of frustration that Trump came up to attack the whole system. So he has come up. He has occupied the most powerful position. But now he's dismantling whatever was left in America for his private gain. Now they're saying no, economy has doubled, unemployment has gone down. Today's New York Times says, some people have quoted, that America is doing very well. We don't know to what extent they are doing very well or the thing. But America's role in the world is going to be in decline. This is what my understanding is, the way he is leading. He is more of a businessman. World knows it. He does not have that long-term strategic vision or a great powers obligation or a great powers role also. He's driven more and more by his personal agenda, his personal superiority, and to what extent he can harness America's strength to that extent. So he is, how good a statesman he is, I have serious doubt. Not only I think 99% people in the strategic committee of United States also, they have a doubt that what kind of statesman he is. He is largely a trader and a deal maker. So this also has its own advantages. In certain difficult situation, he can arrive at some understanding with Russia, Iran, or someone else. Regarding his claim of mediation, I don't know what my knowledge is as much as your knowledge. But even if he has done something, or he has been involved somewhere, or even he has been briefed, he would think that he has achieved it. He has mediated, isn't it? So that he may like to say. And I've always said on matters of national security, defense, and foreign policy, we have to go by what our government says. Going by the track record of Trump, we can always say maybe he had some role. He may have spoken to people here and there, and he has come under this impression that he's the one who ensured it. Of course, United States of America is a very powerful country. It word matters, but very often it's a delusion also. I don't want to crack any joke at this platform. It's a serious discourse. But even if he's under this delusion, let him be. He will always be. But we have to be very clear that if he was having so much of clout and power America had, then Osama bin Laden would not have been hiding in Abbottabad in the military cantonment, isn't it? By this thing. So how much Pakistanis care for America? This is very well known that the man who brought down their twin towers, he was hiding there for years, and it's fortunately some sections within their national security setup, and they came and dismantled. So that is the clout of America. Of course, what worries us is an unhealthy, illicit, and perverse nexus between certain powerful invisible elements within United States and America and China also, and that is what is our worry. And this is where I think India should also have two things, as I say every time: build our capacities and tell our well-wishers within America. Whole America is not against us, but there are many sections who are in our favor. We have to tell them that, look, you have to mind your democracy. We have to improve integrity of your institutions also, in your interest as well as interest of open societies, free societies, and democracies, right, and general human race. Otherwise, this habit of Trump is going to do more harm to America than anyone else.
Right. So he talks about the MAGA thing, Make America Great Again, but there's a lot of things happening there. So two questions related to that. First question, sir, as we talked about this American mediation, the American Vice President J.D. Vance, उन्होंने एक statement दी थी कि we have nothing to do with India and Pakistan, it's their own internal matter. And 2 days hence, Mr. Trump tweets on the platform of his friend X, of his friend Mr. Musk, that has having a fallout there as well.
Has broken.
Yeah, fallout has happened there as well. So I mean, he declared about India, being the mediator. But क्या हम उसके तार सर अमेरिकन न्यूक्लियर डंप के ऊपर कुछ एक क्षति पहुंची होगी इंडियन मिसाइल अटैक से, क्या उससे जोड़ सकते हैं? और दूसरा क्वेश्चन सर, यू टॉक अबाउट मिस्टर बिन लादेन. I was reading this book by a former Indian Raw Chief, Shri S. Dulat, and which is penned with the former ISI Chief Asad Durrani, where they mentioned that the Pakistanis were aware of Mr. Bin Laden's presence in Abbottabad, and this entire operation Zero Dark 30, that was like by the CIA or the American forces, this was all staged. And it was the Pakistanis themselves जिन्होंने ओसामा बिन लादेन को हैंड ओवर किया है. पर अगर वो डायरेक्टली पब्लिकली हैंड ओवर करते, तो it would have been an embarrassment for them, because bin Laden was a kind of a hero in that place. So how do you see these two observations, sir? I would like your perspective.
I have forgotten the first question, but second question, of course.
First question was, sir, the American nuclear dump, I mean, probably being hit, and America changing course within 2 days after Mr. Vance's statement and Mr. Trump, claiming of that mediation.
Three issues are there. I will start from the last regarding Mr. Dulat and Durrani's book. So, we have to go by the old man. These two old and veterans in their own area. I'm sure they must be having better understanding or information about this issue. It looks very credible, and no one can know complete truth in these matters. But this was, of course, something very suspicious, that Pakistan has been their partner in war on terror, and yet, it happened. So these things, this is what I say, that certain key dimensions of statecraft security strategy, they have so many layers of secrecy that it is really difficult to understand, and probably truth will never come out in public domain. This is part of the truth and appears quite credible, what you've said, Dulat Saab's book and Durrani's book, so appears valid. Second thing you said, about American nuclear dump or whatever being hit, etc. Nobody would know. We don't have, as an analyst, I don't think I have invested so much of time to arrive at any definitive conclusion. So I would not like to say, yes, my guess is as much, but there is something that needs to be, discussed, investigated upon, and talked about. Regarding, Trump's, this thing you said, everyone, 2018, I was at some conference and seminar, and I was interacting with some people, and they, Americans only, very expert, and it was informal discussion, and couple of them, they were convinced that he has a psychological disorder. He can't be relied upon. But they said, that America needs a lunatic-proof electoral process. At that time, 2018, he was in his first term. And this is something is wrong. He's not mentally stable. And you see that, in someone not having, but of course, he has many positive and strong qualities. At this age, approaching 80, he's so fit and so active and so agile, and he can change his course. He's like hypersonic missile only, Chinese hypersonic missile DF-17 or whatever, or bigger missile, big range, so, and suddenly can take a U-turn, change a course, anything on any issue. So what he said in India, supposed to be a good friend of India, suddenly he changed course and hit his friend also. You see his relationship with Elon Musk, the way it has fallen out. He has been praising, and suddenly they are on warpath with each other. Someone who never had a strong, stable life personally, So he is some. So when Americans are talking about they need a lunatic-proof presidential election, I'm not saying it. Maybe they need. It's their baby, but if they feel that they are having people, an incumbent in the highest office of the most powerful state who is mentally not stable, it's very dangerous for the world, and it's very dangerous for democracies. So I can only say this much, but there are far too many issues to, far too many grounds to suspect and believe that American president lacks statesmanly qualities.
So there was certain speculation Trump being a Russian spy or something of that sort sometime back. It was just making the news. Also, sir, the fallout with Mr. Elon Musk. I mean, the bromance has ended now. And how do you see this having ramifications, not just for America, but for the wider global ramifications? How do you see this impacting in the times to come?
Navjot, I have been trying to think on issues strategically and not tactically. These are two individuals, both were madly in love with each other. And when you are madly in love with each other, you don't have space to love anyone else, isn't it? So it is very natural that the moment their own narcissistic instincts were hurt or offended, this breaking apart was very likely. It was inevitable. Many times I've said, that a time will come, these people will fall out. So this was an unexpected line. But more importantly, the kind of control, certain private sector entities in America, they have on issues which impact their national security. In days to come, they have to think, they have to review. I have been trying to study many congressional research committees, how big funds are diverted, how lobbying goes on, a good number of things. So many people, Americans themselves, they say, that America is still a country of pirates, isn't it? Pirates or robber barons, they say that these are big economic players. They regulate economy. They do everything to suit them. When President Trump himself has monetized White House, so what do you expect others, isn't it? So instead of looking at issues from these two individuals' point of view, we have to say that, America is a great land. A land of great opportunities for everyone. It allows people from foreign countries also to come, contribute, thrive, prosper. So many positives are there. But at the same time, what Mr. Trump wants to do, that he wants to close down that, wants to protect everything from outside coming in, and he wants to have whatever, he wants to emerge as sole ruler of that place, sole controller of that place, someone who can enjoy monopolistic access to American resources, American power, American wealth for himself and his family. So that is one thing. Others are also vying for that. So there will be conflict. So I think, sensible people in America going beyond these two individuals, they need to address that what Woodrow Wilson had to say, what, Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln to Franklin Roosevelt to many of their John Kennedy. All these were exceptional leaders. So I think their thought process, their ideas, and so many nameless, faceless people who have built America. Of course, these include also slaves. For 300 to 400 years, they had uninterrupted access to, the slave laborers, as I said last time also. Indigenous population was wiped out from America. Of course, these are ugly and unfortunate said. But having said that, they have many strong and positive qualities as well. So, real statecraft is very difficult, but the objective of real statecraft has to be universal well-being of human race. Of course, you can't be pleasing everyone. It's, right application of ideas, where to apply force, where to support people, where to do this thing. This is a complex science. So American democracy should not be reduced into, this war between few corporate robber barons that they decide what suits them and what does not suit them. I think it's time that, the real stakeholders of America, they come out. And it has only showed, that when these corporate barons are involved or corporate top pilots are involved, they will be guided only by their private agenda and private interest. If they become too powerful, then what is going to happen? Their conflict is going to impact their country. And they all said and done, as the most powerful democracy, America had played many positive roles. There have been dark shades of this, like as you say, in this subcontinent. They promoted Pakistan, they promoted Islamic terrorism until it hit them in 9/11, or they promoted Chinese authoritarianism. They have been doing it. Yet they had some positive qualities. So I feel that, the right-minded people in America and their friends, well-wishers outside, they need to come together and they need to say, you need to fix your system. Democracy is not about speaking and preaching. Democracy is also about delivering or creating effective delivery system where social justice or whatever equitable access to this thing or comprehensive empowerment of society should not amount to doles and charities and dysfunctionality. It should lead to comprehensive empowerment of individuals and societies and the world where everybody is at same level. So I'm using the brain of not an analyst but as a thinker or a utopian dreamer. Also, you can run me down. But this is what has been. This has been the most beautiful and fascinating aspect of American democracy. So I hope that good Americans or the genuine stakeholders of America, the friends of America, they come together and they encourage them to fix their system. So that it's very unfortunate that a country which was once led by someone of the caliber of Abraham Lincoln to John Kennedy to Woodrow Wilson to Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, that country has brought itself making a mockery of itself by these kind of fights between these two narcissistic parents.
That's a fall in pedigree and quite a rampant one at that, sir. For the Americans, I mean, making America great again, but then the pedigree of the leader doesn't stand anywhere close to Mr. as you said, Theodore Roosevelt or Lincoln or all of
Franklin Roosevelt,
and all of the illustrious predecessors that have been there. Yes, sir. Thank you again. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Chair.